Why she can't handle it when you stop caring. Stoic wisdom for life and relationships. Part 1. The awakening. Ethan Cole had always been the type of man who cared too much. Every text left on read sent his mind into overdrive. Every delayed response from Sarah, the woman he had given his heart to, felt like a silent rejection. He had built his life around her presence, thinking that love meant sacrifice and that patience would always be rewarded. But reality had a different lesson for him. One evening, Ethan sat at a coffee shop staring at his phone. Sarah had once again canceled their plans at the last minute. Something came up, she had texted. No explanation, no remorse. Just another excuse. Another sign that he was an afterthought. That night, something inside him shifted. He didn't reply. He didn't double text. He didn't wait by the phone. Instead, he closed his eyes and let the weight of his disappointment settle. Then, for the first time in years, he decided to do nothing about it. The next morning, Sarah texted, "Hey, everything okay?" Ethan smirked. She had never asked that before. Not when he had been overly available. Not when he had been waiting around for her attention. He put his phone down. For the first time in his life, he understood something profound. When you stop caring, the dynamic changes. Part 2. The shift. Ethan's decision to stop chasing validation was not just a temporary reaction. It was the beginning of a transformation. He began reading books on Stoic philosophy, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus. Their words resonated with him in a way nothing else ever had. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. He repeated that quote to himself every morning. He stopped reacting impulsively. Instead of being upset about Sarah's lack of effort, he redirected his energy into things he could control: his health, his career, his peace of mind. Days passed, then weeks. Sarah noticed the change. "Hey, you've been distant," she texted one evening. Ethan saw the message but didn't feel the usual urge to reply immediately. He finished his workout, took a shower, made himself dinner. Then calmly, he responded, "Been busy." That was new. Sarah wasn't used to this version of him, the version that didn't seek her approval, that didn't wait on her every word. She started initiating conversations more, testing the waters, but Ethan remained detached, in control. For the first time, Sarah was the one feeling uncertain. Part 3. The struggle. Sarah didn't know how to handle the new Ethan. She was used to being chased, used to holding the power in their relationship. Now she felt the dynamic slipping away. One evening, she showed up unannounced at his apartment. "You're different," she said, standing in his doorway. Ethan leaned against the frame, arms crossed. "Yeah?" She stepped inside, searching his face. "I don't know. You're just not the same." He smirked slightly. "Maybe I was never supposed to be." Sarah frowned. She had expected him to be hurt, to demand answers, to fight for her attention, but he didn't. And that scared her. For the first time, she felt replaceable, and that was something she couldn't handle. Part 4. The power shift. Sarah had never felt insecure in their relationship before. Ethan had always been the predictable one, the one who cared too much. But now the tables had turned. She found herself checking her phone more often, waiting for his texts, wondering why he wasn't available like before. One evening, she called him. It rang 4 times before he picked up. "Hey," she said. "Hey," Ethan replied casually. No urgency, no eagerness. "I feel like you're pulling away from me," she admitted. Ethan was silent for a moment. Then he said, "I just realized I was putting too much energy into things I couldn't control. It wasn't healthy." Sarah's stomach twisted. "Are you saying I wasn't worth it?" Ethan exhaled, keeping his tone calm. "I'm saying I wasn't worth losing myself over." That response hit her in a way she wasn't prepared for. Part 5. The test. Sarah wasn't used to being on the other side of indifference. It made her restless, made her want to regain control. She started trying harder, planning dates, checking in more often, dressing up in ways she knew Ethan liked. But he never overreacted. He appreciated her efforts, but never chased. One night at dinner, she finally broke. "Do you even love me anymore?" she blurted out. Ethan sipped his drink and looked at her thoughtfully. "I do, but not in the way that makes me lose myself." Sarah's eyes flickered with something. Fear, frustration, maybe even admiration. "You're different now," she said. Ethan nodded. "And you don't know how to handle it." Part 6. The breaking point. Sarah couldn't stand the uncertainty. She needed reassurance, needed proof that she still mattered. One night she picked a fight. "You don't even care anymore. You used to fight for me, used to make an effort," she shouted. Ethan remained composed. "I don't fight for people who make me feel like an option." Sarah's breath caught in her throat. For the first time, she saw him as someone who wasn't desperate to keep her, and that terrified her. She stormed out, expecting Ethan to run after her, but he didn't, and that changed everything. Part 7. The aftermath days passed, then a week. Sarah waited for Ethan to text, to apologize, to try to fix things, but he never did. She started replaying everything in her head, how she had taken him for granted, how she had assumed he'd always be there. One evening she caved. She showed up at his door. "I miss you," she whispered. Ethan studied her for a long moment. Then with a calm, almost unreadable expression, he said, "Do you miss me, or do you miss the version of me who put you first no matter what?" Sarah had no answer, because deep down, she knew the truth. Part 8. The realization Ethan had found peace within himself. He no longer needed validation from someone who only appreciated him when he was slipping away. Sarah, on the other hand, was facing a reality she never expected. She had lost the one person who had once made her feel like the center of his world. And now, no matter what she did, she couldn't bring that version of him back, because he had evolved, and she couldn't handle it. Part 9. The new path. Ethan had found something far more valuable than the attention and affection he once craved from Sarah. He had found peace within himself. His journey was no longer about winning her back or seeking her approval. It was about respecting his own worth and understanding that he deserved more than a love that only existed when it was convenient. Sarah had been used to being the center of his world, and now he was no longer available for that role. His life, once dominated by her presence and the constant effort to prove his love, had shifted. He had embraced the Stoic philosophy that had taught him to only invest energy where it truly mattered: his own growth, his own peace, his own future. He had learned that the most important relationship was the one he had with himself.